idea was in February, decided we were going to do a tour to see the progress of this facility, and it was cold. Y'all know February in Wisconsin, it was cold. And if you look at the video, if you look real close, you know how it's so cold you kind of see your breath. You look real close, you can kind of see in the air of our breath coming out. It kind of reads like, whose idea was this? But we got through it, and we're here, and we're glad that we're here to celebrate. So it's not every day we get to throw a party on Jones Island, so we're happy that you're here. And this is truly a historic day for Port Milwaukee, and for the city, and for the state, and for the U.S. Department of Transportation, all of our partners, and we'll acknowledge all of them here shortly. Nearly 2 years ago, we joined together here to break ground on the major development project right behind me. And I want to recognize our partners and the many leaders who've made this entire effort a reality for Port Milwaukee. First, I want to thank the Delong Company, and you'll hear from them shortly, for their major investment in Port Milwaukee, for their vision, their commitment to supporting our Made in Wisconsin economy for decades to come. This is truly a public-private partnership. In addition to the Delong Company, we wouldn't be here today without so many partners at the federal, state, and local level. So I want to thank Governor Tony Evers, who's here with us, Mayor Cavalier Johnson, our partners in Wisconsin's congressional delegation, the state of Wisconsin, the Milwaukee Common Council, the Wisconsin State Legislature, and the U.S. Department of Transportation's Maritime Administration. There's so many others here as well that we're happy that you were able to join us here today. Behind me is the Delong Company's Agricultural Maritime Export Facility. We're just gonna say AMEF for the rest of the day, because that's hard to say, okay? Before the development behind me was constructed, this was home to what we commonly refer to as the Advanced Building. It was an aging, underutilized structure here on the island. Over 5 decades ago, the Advanced Building was built in anticipation of the opening of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway, the bellwether of our international commerce on the Great Lakes. That marked new and exciting shipping opportunities for Port Milwaukee. And we all know that waterborne commerce was what established Milwaukee and has fueled its growth. The Delong Terminal, or the AMEF, brings Port Milwaukee full circle. So this investment is about realizing new agricultural trade opportunities through international connectivity. It's about reaffirming Port Milwaukee's role in advancing economic activity in the city and throughout the region. And it's great news for Milwaukee that companies like the Delong Company have chosen to invest here, create jobs here, and choose the port as the place to expand operations. So thank you again. With that, I'm pleased to invite Bo Delong, Vice President of Grain for the Delong Company, to share the story about what this investment in their company's impressive work means for the Badger State. Bo.
Thank you, Jackie, for those kind comments. On behalf of the Delong Company, I'd like to welcome you to the grand opening of our AMEF facility. This facility is the newest and most efficient agricultural vessel facility on the Great Lakes that can handle DDGs and other difficult to handle feed products via truck and rail, loaded into barges or ocean-going vessels. 4 years ago, this was a vision between Brandon Bickham, our head of export sales, and Peter Herthy, former port development representative from the Port of Milwaukee. They recognized the need for a new, modern export facility that could handle products that weren't produced over 70 years ago, when most of the grain export facilities were built on the Great Lakes. Today we stand behind a facility, or beside a facility, that 2 weeks ago loaded its first ocean-going vessel of Wisconsin DDGs, produced from Wisconsin grown corn, that just arrived, and it just arrived in Ireland this past weekend. This project represents one of the largest one-time investments in the Port of Milwaukee since the 1950s, when the St. Lawrence Seaway was built. Just a few details about the facility, and I know that we're going to have some tours after this, so I hope all of you can take a walk through. You're sitting beside our receiving building in our office. The receiving building, we can bring in rail cars or truck loaded with different agricultural products. It's served by the Union Pacific and Canadian Pacific Railroads. The port has provided capacity for 100 rail cars. Storage capacity, which is in the building right behind me, can hold 30,000 metric ton of DDGs or 40,000 metric tons of soybeans at one time, which is more than a vessel, just more than a vessel can hold itself. There were over 1,300 pilings that had to go down 140 foot deep to support this building, along with over 30 inches of concrete flooring to support our products. The vessel loader itself, which is directly behind the storage building, was brought up from New Orleans, up the Mississippi River, and finally up through Lake Michigan. To arrive here, it can load at a rate of 1,000 metric ton per hour. So meaning when we get a vessel in, our goal is to load that well within 2 days' time. Outbound transportation will be either by barge or vessel. Vessels can hold between 7,000 metric ton and 22,000 metric ton of product. Our annual capacity is expected to be between 160,000 and 300,000 metric ton. Products will be handled will be DDGs, soybean meal, soybeans, corn, and wheat. All originated in Wisconsin or in the upper Midwest. Destination markets will be Western Europe, Spain, Portugal, Mediterranean, and North Africa. As Jackie said, financial support for this project came from the federal government, the state of Wisconsin, Department of Transportation's HAP program, the Port of Milwaukee, and the Delong Company. I wish to thank everyone here for their support, but would like to point out a few people in particular. First and foremost, I want to thank DATCAP, the agricultural groups, and the Wisconsin farmers for their support of Delong over the past 113 years. On the federal level, I'd like to support Tammy Baldwin, Congresswoman Gwen Moore, and Congressman Brian Stile. I'd also like to thank MARAD for their support. And here today is Tameka Flack, who is the acting Deputy Administrator for MARAD. Without not only MARAD's support for the port, but also for Wisconsin agriculture. I'd also like to thank Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers for his support. Governor Evers was here 3 years ago during our groundbreaking, and is here again today visiting the Wisconsin's investment in this project. Thank you very much. In addition to him, a special thanks to WSDOT Secretary Thompson. Working with the Secretary and his staff has been a great experience, and his support for this project has never wavered. I would also like to recognize Randy Romansky and Deputy Secretary of DATCAP, Eileen Switzer, for their support. From the City of Milwaukee, I'd like to recognize Mayor Cavalier Johnson, his staff, and the Milwaukee Common Council. Jackie, I remember who that person was that wanted to meet out here in February in 10-degree weather with a 30-mile-an-hour wind blowing off the river. Yes, Mr. Johnson, Mayor Johnson. He wanted to do a site inspection during his visit, and while we were talking, he mentioned to me about him taking his kids to school over the highway up on the west side of here. and he could look down and he could visit and see the progress of the facility. From the tower that sits behind me, the erection of the tower, to the bucket elevator. He went on and on about the building, how the columns were put up, and how we finally had the building completed. And it was at that point in the conversation I recognized that this guy actually knows more about what's going on up here than I do. So thank you, Mayor Johnson, for keeping tabs on us. I also want to thank Jackie Carter, Director of the Port, along with her staff, especially Port Engineer Brian Kaspernick, for helping us navigate through this entire process. Also, I'd like to recognize the Board of Harbor Commissioners. I would also like to recognize the companies that helped build this facility, most of them Wisconsin-based businesses. Fourth Engineering, especially Mike Ramon and Brian Hendricks. The Shrine Group, Marcus Shrine, JC Electric, Brian Jacobs, Legacy Buildings, and Michael's Construction, along with Gilbank Construction. And finally, the members of the Delong team, Dave, Pat, Chris, Brandon Bickham, Sean Farrell, our project manager, and Tim Moorfield, our facility manager, and Aaron Hamburg for helping put this together today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bo. Just so you know, Mayor, if you call another press conference in February, I'll come. And with that, I do want to recognize our mayor, who is a visionary leader, and he's working hard all over the city of Milwaukee to make it a stronger city for all of us. He's been a steadfast supporter of Port Milwaukee and continues to work alongside our team to move the maritime economy forward. So with that, it's my honor to present or invite to the podium Mayor Cavalier Johnson.
Well, good evening, or good afternoon, rather. I'll say good evening. Is it evening? Is it afternoon? Is it morning? It's morning still. Good morning. I work hard, you guys. I'm all over the clock, man. Well, thank you, Jackie, and thank you everyone who helped to make this project a reality at Port Milwaukee. It's so important that I subjected my staff to sub-freezing temperatures to check on the progress of what was going on here. So thank you both for outing me as a person that had everybody out here freezing. That was a cold day. I remember it well. As we all know, the city of Milwaukee is the proud economic engine of the state of Wisconsin. And businesses here, some of the most iconic in the entire state of Wisconsin, they leverage our city and specifically Port Milwaukee from every corner of the state to conduct their business and transport their goods across the globe. And now, Wisconsin's agriculture industry will have a new resource right here in Milwaukee to move their products, not just around the state, but to markets around the entire globe. And as you can see here, Port Milwaukee is becoming a much larger part of Wisconsin's agricultural economy with this new export facility. This development represents the largest one-time investment at Port Milwaukee since the 1950s, right? That's big, and I think that deserves a round of applause for the division that Delong had. Biggest investment at the port since the 1950s, and it also represents a robust public-private partnership between the city of Milwaukee, the Delong Company, the state of Wisconsin, the United States Department of Transportation as well. And I was pleased to tour the facility behind me, as was mentioned, in freezing weather earlier this year during its final construction stage. And the operational capabilities, as Bo mentioned, they're quite impressive. So I hope that folks here have the opportunity to tour the facility as well. Moving forward, trucks and trains, they'll deliver Wisconsin-grown agricultural products to Jones Island for storage and handling. And international vessels will then travel through the harbor's waterways to receive and transport these goods to markets all across the globe. And we had just had a contingent of folks from across the world here in Milwaukee to celebrate Harley-Davidson's 120th anniversary. Now, again, Milwaukee will touch the world when we send Wisconsin-grown agricultural products out of Port Milwaukee to markets all across the world. That is an impressive feat. And this major addition to both the port's operation and Milwaukee's role in the Great Lakes supply chain as well. And look, Wisconsin's farmers, growers, and producers are some of the hardest working folks here in our state. They really, really are. And we should be working just as hard to support them and look no further than Port Milwaukee to witness how Great Lakes shipping is doing just that for our state's agricultural sector. This new development will generate significant economic impact in the years to come. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation has estimated the Delong Terminal will create more than $60 million in new statewide economic impact annually. Let me repeat that again. This is a big deal because this terminal will create more than $60 million in new statewide economic impact annually. That's good for Milwaukee's economy. That's good for our region's economy. That's good for the economy of the state of Wisconsin. The facility will also increase exports through Port Milwaukee by hundreds of thousands of metric tons per year. And I'm proud that Milwaukee's agricultural maritime export facility will create jobs, will support Wisconsin's agricultural industry, and will grow the regional economy right here in southeastern Wisconsin as well. So I'm looking forward to witnessing the positive effect the DeLong facility will have both on our city as well as on our state. And I'm grateful to everyone here for helping move this project forward and helping to move Milwaukee's maritime economy forward as well. So thank you all for that. And let me say this as well, that Milwaukee and Wisconsin are inextricably linked. They really, really are. They belong together. It's kind of like peanut butter and jelly, right? We have a symbiotic relationship between this city and this state. We're proud to be the economic engine of Wisconsin, and that's good for our city, but it's also good for the entirety of our state. And if there's any one person who knows that better than most, I think it's the leader of our state. It's the governor of the state of Wisconsin, somebody who's been a champion for this project and so many others that have positively impacted the city of Milwaukee over the course of the last several years. So Jackie, I'm going to take the opportunity, if you don't mind, to introduce my friend, a friend of the city of Milwaukee, a true champion for the entire state of Wisconsin, our governor, Tony Evers. Whichever one you want.
Okay. I asked the mayor, am I peanut butter or jelly? I'm not a fan of jelly, so we'll go with peanut butter. So I just want to start out with a story. I've had some prepared remarks, but today is a really important day. Not only here, this is the day we open the Farm Technology Days. It used to be called Farm Progress Days. Once a year, a farm across the state opens up its doors and its fields to all sorts of people to think about the future of agriculture in the state and see all the new technology. And that's happening right as we speak in Reedsburg, Wisconsin. And I got to open up that event also this morning. And one of the things I told them, I said, you know, after I leave here, I'm going to Milwaukee and we're going to talk about agriculture. We're going to talk about how we're going to get your products to market more quickly and more efficiently and really help grow agriculture in the state of Wisconsin. We talked about the great work that DeLong and the city and others have done in the state to create this new facility. It's going to accomplish just that. And the nice thing about it, they get it. They get how important Milwaukee is. They get how important it is to get their product to market. And this is just an extraordinary opportunity for us. So it's a pleasure to be here today and join so many outstanding industry and local leaders for the celebration back in 2021. Seems like a long time ago, Mayor. I was glad to join many of the folks here today to kick off the groundbreaking for this project, and here we are today. This new facility will have a tremendous impact here and around the state, and I want to congratulate DeLong, Port Milwaukee, and everyone who played a role in getting this project over the finish line. Obviously, Mayor Johnson played a huge role. Our good friends at the DOT, federal partners, Congresswoman Moore, Senator Baldwin, and others. As a state, we were also glad to be a partner helping support this project. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, okay, then it's their fault. As a state, we're also glad to be a partner and help support this project through more than $9.5 million we directed through our Harbor Assistance Program. By the way, we are able to provide continued investment in the recent budget so that we can support other projects like this in the years ahead. Because this project and the projects like it going forward are a win-win-win for our state. This project has been a win for local jobs, both during the construction process and now to keep this multi-million-dollar facility up and running. This project is a win for the agriculture industry here in Wisconsin, as more of our farmers' best-in-class Wisconsin goods are shared with folks all across the world. And this new facility is a win for the state and local economy as well. It will generate tens of millions of dollars in statewide economic impact each and every year. So thanks to this public-private investment, this new facility represents the largest one-time investment in Port Milwaukee we've seen in decades, and will be continued national leaders in agriculture exports long into the future. Port Milwaukee is a vital point of connections in our state and our nation's supply chain, and this project paints a clear picture as to why we must continue to invest in the success of our transportation systems and cornerstone Wisconsin industries, especially here in Milwaukee. And we cannot underestimate the impact of Milwaukee to our success as a state. And together with this new facility, I'm glad that we are able to celebrate milestones lately in helping ensure this community and others around the state have the support and resources to do their best. So I want to thank everyone again who is here today and had a hand in making this exciting project possible. This will elevate our farmers, our ag industry, long into the future. So thanks so much, everybody. It's a huge day for Wisconsin. Thank you. I don't know who got that.
Thank you, Mayor and Governor, for your remarks. I don't know if you guys are catching on, but today the word of the day is like partnership, right? So I want to bring up another partner for Port Milwaukee and for the Delong Company and for all over the state. It's my honor to introduce the Secretary of Transportation for the state of Wisconsin, Secretary Craig Thompson. Secretary Thompson and his team have been invaluable partners ensuring the success of this project. With his leadership, Port Milwaukee has received millions of grant dollars, and not just this project, but all over this island, from the state of Wisconsin's Harbor Assistance Program. But specifically today, we're here to talk about how they partner with us to bring this facility to fruition. This state program assists harbor communities like ours along the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River with projects that maintain and improve waterborne commerce. So thank you to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Thank you, Secretary Thompson, for your leadership, and I invite you to the podium.
Well, thank you very much, Jackie. Thank you, Mayor, for having us here at a great city on a great lake. It is a pleasure to be here today to officially cut the ribbon on this beautiful new agriculture export facility. Our harbors are a vital transportation asset. Each year, Wisconsin ports handle more than 40 million tons of cargo, valued at more than $8 billion, including agricultural commodities destined for international markets. For example, Port Milwaukee here is the third largest exporter of grain on the Great Lakes. The export facility that we're opening here today will expand that impact even further, bringing $63 million annually in new economic impact and boosting exports through the Port Milwaukee by as much as 400,000 metric tons annually. The facility is among the first on the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway system that can handle a variety of agricultural commodities via truck, rail, and international vessels. This is an important new resource for both shipping and agriculture, and its impact will be felt statewide. As Jackie was just mentioning about the theme of partnerships, this project here is an example of how partnership can make great things happen. This partnership between the USDOT, the state of Wisconsin, the Port of Milwaukee, MARAD, And I do just want to say, just a tremendous Wisconsin success story company, Delong Corporation, represents one of the largest one-time investments, as has been mentioned, in the Port Milwaukee since the 1950s, when the St. Lawrence Seaway was being built. WisDOT's investment in this facility was made through our primary support for freight water, which is our Harbor Assistance Program, or HAP. Earlier this year, the governor and WisDOT announced HAP grants totaling $5.3 million for 7 harbor maintenance improvement projects that improve waterborne freight and economic development. Several of these projects are specifically targeted to enable ports to more effectively load and transport agricultural goods. For example, in La Crosse, one HAP grant will help to repair a failing dock wall used to export aid commodities and import miscellaneous bulk goods. A second grant will help to repair and construct a new dock wall dedicated to transfer of corn and soybeans. And in Manitowoc, a HAP grant will also dredge the bed of the Manitowoc River along frontage used to broaden maritime transportation options for agricultural commodities. In closing, I'd like to point out how well this facility exemplifies the importance of our entire transportation system. So many times across the state, we talk about how important it is to have an interconnected transportation system, all of the components being so vital to the economy of Wisconsin. I don't know that you could possibly come up with a better example of where we're at here today, where all these different modes come together to show that this is how we make Wisconsin's economy thrive and move forward, is by having these connections of rail and truck and water. In this way, we make it easier for industry to quickly and cost-effectively take advantage of the transportation mode that works best for them, which in turn makes the state more economically competitive. The agriculture export facility will ensure that Wisconsin farmers and producers are even better connected to markets around the world, and I couldn't be more happy to be here and be part of this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Thompson. Now I have the privilege of bringing up another partner who, as I understand it, is visiting our city for the first time. Yep. All right, so this is one of our partners at the federal level. We've talked a lot about MARAD, which is the Maritime Administration, which is a part of the U.S. Department of Transportation. All these big words today, y'all killing me. But this Port Milwaukee was one of the first nationwide grant recipients for the Port Infrastructure Development Program. We're gonna call that PIDP, that's what we call it. And that was through the U.S. Department of Transportation. The Delong Agricultural Maritime Export Facility would not have been possible without the federal funding that we received through that program. So please join me in welcoming her first visit to our great city of Milwaukee, Deputy Maritime Administrator Tamika Flack.
So I think I'm last, and all of you who have on dark suits, just sit tight. All right. Thank you, Director Carter, Governor Evers, Mayor Johnson, Secretary Thompson, and distinguished guests. On behalf of Secretary Buttigieg and the Maritime Administrator Phillips, it is an honor and a pleasure to be with you this morning as we mark this significant achievement for Port Milwaukee, the Maritime Administration, and the entire Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway system. I would like to begin by thanking Wisconsin's congressional delegation for their tireless support for the Maritime Administration and our vital national and economic security missions. Their firm bipartisan support is instrumental to the Maritime Administration. It has allowed us to improve and modernize the maritime transportation system through projects like DeLong's Agricultural Maritime Export Facility at Port Milwaukee. I couldn't memorize your acronym that fast, but I'll try for next time. Of course, the state of Wisconsin has a long and rich maritime transportation system support. Projects like this could not be completed without Wisconsin's Harbor Assistance Program. Lastly, your friend, Adam Tyndall-Schlitt, the St. Lawrence Seaway Director, asked me to share his well wishes with all of you for the success that is being recognized today. As Jackie said, this is my first trip to Milwaukee, and I cannot think of a better reason to visit than to join all of you here today to celebrate such a significant milestone in the history of this great city and state. I always like to learn a few things about the places that I visit before I go there, so in prep for my visit, I decided to get a little more familiar with the history of this great state and city, especially this port. What intrigued me most is how important this port has been to this city and region dating all the way back to 1835, nearly 200 years. This is remarkable to me, especially on this day, because it speaks to the fact that on this day, we carry on this port's long tradition of supporting this region's access to international markets and this port's dedication to strengthening the local and regional supply chain. Importantly, the work that takes place at this port not only impacts the local and regional economy, it positively impacts the economic vitality of our entire nation. What most people don't understand is that annually, approximately 70% of the U.S. international trade by weight, worth close to $2 trillion in goods, moves by water. That's a lot of goods moving by water. But what this means in reality is that quite literally, day to day, the ports around this country, ports just like this one, are critical to maintaining the United States as a leader in the global economy. The Biden-Harris administration, Secretary Buttigieg and Administrator Phillips recognize the indispensable nature of our ports, and they have all made a commitment to ensure that the federal government does its part to facilitate port infrastructure development projects as one of the essential infrastructure goals for this administration. But now let's talk a little bit about the Port Infrastructure Development Program, or PIDP. PIDP funding goes to ports in both urban and rural areas for planning and capital projects. It has funded a variety of projects that support efforts by ports and industry stakeholders to meet the nation's freight transportation needs now and ensure that we can meet those needs in the future. This port, in particular, became one of the first recipients of the PIDP grant program with your 2019 application. That year alone, MARAD received 55 eligible PIDP applications from ports and organizations across 23 states and 2 U.S. territories. The total amount available that year was $292 million. But the grants that came in sought $1.14 billion. What this means for all of you is that your friends at Port Milwaukee and the Delong Company, they brought their A game to that competition, because now we stand before this magnificent facility. You should all be incredibly proud of the work that you have accomplished. I spoke with the MARAD team responsible for evaluating the PIDP applications, and they told me from the start that it was clear that the Agricultural Maritime Export Facility would advance the PIDP goals. This is because this project promotes exports through the construction of an export facility. This project brings the facility into a state of good repair by fixing a dilapidated bulkhead. And this project promotes efficient energy trade. The project also demonstrated strong support from local and state officials, as well as local business organizations. For their efforts, the Port Milwaukee and Delong Company's Agricultural Maritime Export Facility was awarded $15.89 million in PID funding to redevelop this property. The result being a facility that truly embodies the spirit of innovation, collaboration, and progress. It exemplifies what can be achieved when we invest in our infrastructure and harness the potential of our waterways to drive economic prosperity. Today, we celebrate the completion of a project and the future that it represents for our agricultural and maritime industries. In addition to the work that we've done here, the PIDP program has also funded projects across the Great Lakes region, including a project at the Port of Green Bay, another at the Port of Cleveland, and still another at the Port of Toledo. All of these projects collectively will create economic benefits by generating new jobs, stimulating local businesses, thereby creating economic growth throughout the region. Furthermore, by utilizing the maritime routes for transportation, we are reducing congestion on our highways and minimizing the environmental impact of transportation, thereby aligning this project with the administration's commitment to sustainability and environmental justice. These are indeed amazing times for our team at MARAD and all of us collectively, working with all of you at the state, local, municipal levels, and even private businesses. Together, we are meeting this genuinely historic moment in our nation's maritime history. And this administration is not done. This administration knows that ports around the country need investments from the federal government. So with this in mind, up from the initial $292 million investment in 2019, and thanks to the President's bipartisan infrastructure law, the Department of Transportation and the Maritime Administration are poised to award a historic $2.25 billion in PIDP grant funding, allowing the nation to continue making progress in modernizing the maritime industry by funding projects to upgrade infrastructure and create new jobs. I'll close by reiterating that it has been my great privilege to be with you this morning. This investment, which continues in the long history of maritime activity in the Milwaukee region, is vital to our national and economic security. And on behalf of the United States Department of Transportation and the entire Maritime Administration, I extend my heartfelt congratulations to the Port of Milwaukee and to the Delong Company for your vision and dedication to making this facility a reality. Thank you.
What's the word of the day? All right, partnership. So I want to now acknowledge, the port is fortunate enough to have so many partners, there's not enough categories to put all of you in. So I want to thank everyone who is here today, but we also want to make sure that we acknowledge the work of U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin and Congresswoman Gwen Moore, who are represented here today with their staffers. We have from Senator Baldwin's office, Ms. Tiffany Henry, and from Congresswoman Gwen Moore's office, Mr. Rob Hansen. So thank you all for joining us today. More partners. We've got tenants and all the folks out here on Jones Island. We want to thank you for supporting the facility, being flexible during the construction, and just being good neighbors. And I didn't know if we should sing the Mr. Rogers or the Golden Girls theme song here, so we just gonna cut it out, okay? I can't stress enough how important, again, partnerships are. The last group I want to thank, though, is the port staff, because without that team, we don't get here, right? So I'm privileged to lead that group every day. I want to actually ask you all, I know y'all don't want to do it, but I'm going to ask you to do it anyway, to stand up just so I can acknowledge you, all the... Thank you. And I will not do you like my boss did me and invite you to a press conference in February. See, y'all could have just stood up. But what I want to invite you to do now is to prepare to come over. We're going to cut the ribbon. We're actually going to do it here in front of this sign. So I invite your attention, and I ask all of our honorees, our speakers, to join me over here next to this sign. And just so you are aware, there will be opportunities for photos and tours afterwards. Delong has also been gracious enough to cater a lunch. So we welcome you all to stay, to network, and enjoy the hospitality. Thank you again for coming.
Thanks for making time for us. So we're going to have Flo, the mayor, and the governor all share the scissors. Flo, if you want to come over here. And if y'all want to fill in on each side, I'm going to grab a couple more folks. All right, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Oh, thank you.